Kareem,
Naeem.
marhaba.
Marhabtin.
Oh man. So today's guest is Kareem. It's a very popular Middle Eastern app to book your rides, order food and groceries, and even get a piece. Wait, did I get
Kareem with a K. Kareem with a K.
Okay,
Don't
wrong.
mix them up.
Wrong Kareem. I think. Have you
Great
tried,
app though.
Have you tried
Great
suing
app.
them for your name?
Suing them?
Yeah.
No, I think they tried suing me for like, no, it's with a C. I'm like, no, guys, with a K.
Oh man. So good to have you here. I know we've been planning this for years.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Actually,
I think we tried recording. We recorded actually an episode.
A remote session.
On my failed podcast.
Yeah. How's that working?
It clearly, amazingly.
Well, this one's going to be a bit different to the usual episodes I do for this podcast. So I qualify people based on business age. And by business age, I mean how long they've been in business, 8, 9, 10, 15 years, because I'm trying to squeeze as much wisdom from them as possible. But you and I are almost at the same business age. So I thought it would be actually fun for those who are listening and for myself to kind of have a jam session on two newbies who may or may not know what they're doing. I definitely don't know what I'm doing with my business, but figuring it out 90 days at a time. So I thought that would be fun. Maybe we can discuss some traps that you've already seen and gotten out of, something that you're struggling with today, and like stuff that you are preparing for in the future that you think is, requires work from now on. So we can meditate on those things.
100%.
Sound like a plan?
I like that. Like that idea.
Okay. So tell me what you're building right now.
So right now I'm trying to build, so as you know, I run an online Arabic teaching academy, but I'm trying to demystify everything there is about Arabic learning. Right now, when you speak to anyone that wants to learn Arabic, they're either they're very intimidated by the idea of learning Arabic. Like, there's so many different types of Arabic. I tried learning Arabic before; it was super complicated. Some people tell you they don't need Arabic, which in Dubai, to be completely honest, at this time you can, as you know, Dubai is a very international city. You can get by with no Arabic, but there has become more and more interest in learning Arabic. So basically, I'm trying to build kind of a very practical way, a platform, apps, e-learning platforms, like a one-stop shop to learning conversational Arabic.
I like that answer, because when you ask people what business they're building, you get two kinds of response or three kinds of responses. One is a very technical description of their business. The second is the mission that they're after. And the third is a mix of that. And it's refreshing to hear, at least you think of this like a mission. You have like a way to demystify Arabic learning, which is your business can take multiple forms as long as it's following that mission. So it doesn't, right now you're doing online learning mostly. Yeah, exactly. But it could be different in the future because the mission is like demystifying.
True. 100%.
That's very cool. And this isn't your first business though.
No.
What would you say was your first business?
First business. So I've had a lot of kind of mini projects. That kind of the maybe more or less businesses. One that I talk about to like family members and friends is in elementary school and middle school, like way back when, before there was the iPod, before there was iPhones, any of that stuff. We used something called a cassette to listen to music. So I used to sell cassettes at my school. So basically I had a relative that owned a cassette shop, and he would sell me like the cassette tapes for like wholesale or whatever. And I would just go to school and ask like students.
Hustle.
Yeah, like, what do you want? Someone would tell me like, we want the latest Backstreet Boys album. We want the latest. This is in Jordan, keep in mind too. And people would listen to that kind of stuff. Like back when Eminem used to be like the main, like the main thing back then. I just used to buy it from my relative, bring them back to school.
Sell it at a higher price.
Yeah, just
keep the commission.
Keep it on the DL kind of thing, like lunch break in the corner.
You know what's funny? I actually had a very similar first business when I was in high school. And the guest that came here this morning as well had almost
cassette.
A similar
So you guys were my competitors.
Not
basically.
Cassette. I had CDs instead. And it was piracy. So I won't mention what I was burning on the CDs, but it was a very popular show. Ross and Rachel were in it, but it could be a bunch of shows.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It could be any show really.
So mysterious.
Yeah, I know. But it was, my dad had bought me a computer with a DVD burner, and he used to buy me DVDs. I had fast DSL connection, one of the first in my class to have it. Lucky to have that. So selling
Wait, remind me, DSL, like internet?
Yeah, like before, at the point after that dial-up internet.
Yeah, DSL.
Which was like always connected, had its own line, and it was like much faster. Dial-up was like picture loads, one pixel at a time.
And you can't have a phone call while you're...
With DSL,
with DSL, yeah. Okay. So it was like a separate line.
So imagine the amounts of seasons I could download and sell. That was crazy. Okay. But before you chose your life as an entrepreneur, you also dabbled in employment. Now, I'm not going to talk about employment too much because it doesn't really interest me that much, not yours, but like in general, for the sake of this conversation. But the considerations of starting a business after you've been a salaried employee, that's the point I want to discuss. Was there a philosophical change in your mindset, something that created a need to step out? What was it? What were your considerations? What was your philosophy at the time? Were you chasing a particular opportunity, or were you, going after your flow and your energy and trying to bring a change to your entire life? How did you make that transition? What was that like?
So a lot of people before kind of the venture into entrepreneurship or taking a drastic step in life, they like calculate everything. Like, okay, they have something solid to move into. Like, okay, I have a side business that's doing very well, that's taking up a lot of my time. It makes sense for me to leave my job. This wasn't the case for me. It was very random. There was no direct trigger. So I think if you're asking like, what was the trigger for me to leave the employment?
Yeah.
And then there was no direct trigger. Like I was actually happy in my full-time job. It was just like what I saw with the progression and the path of people that were ahead of me was such a predictable path. Like you look at, okay, I was the most recent salary job that I had was at a consulting firm. And, there's like titles and roles and positions. And I think I was like associate, and then next up there's senior associate, and then there's manager, senior manager, until like partner, basically. So it was such a predictable kind of path. Like I look at people 20 years like that were ahead and they're partner. And to me, that just, it seemed very basic. Like even though it was a great company, great people, I enjoyed my time. I just wanted to start something where there's no kind of boundaries with what I can achieve. And I didn't have like a defined idea what that was, but I was just editing and making videos on the side back then. And the timing made sense for me. I said, you know what, if I ever want to kind of take on a risk, no wife, no kids, no major responsibilities at that point, it would kind of have to be now. That's kind of the logic that was, going through my head.
Yeah. So those are the things that were going for it. What was going against it for you? So what were your fears, your doubts, your anything that made you not go ahead?
So that's the thing. Like I didn't really calculate it enough. So in hindsight, that's why my first business, I would consider it a failure more or less. Like it was the lesson learned because I jumped too fast into it. Like I took the leap too quick without strategizing or thinking too much. But I would say the thing that I did think about was lifestyle shift. So, as an employee, I worked Monday to Friday. This was in Toronto. And then I feel like I used to live for the weekend. Like me and my friends, what's going on the weekend? Like we just work.
Thank God it's Friday.
Exactly.
Dreading the Monday.
TGIF. Yeah.
Sunday blues.
Exactly. All that. Yeah. Title for every day, right?
Yeah. Hump day, Wednesday.
Hump day. So yeah, every day was like a thing, and then we work for the weekend. So for me, it was like leaving that, and then I found out later that starting a business my first business I didn't have like that steady income, that financial plan that I would have to kind of crash with family. So living with family is a different lifestyle shift, and all these things they don't really consider. So I think that was one of the biggest like things that if they were to hold me back, I think the lifestyle shift, or someone that's about to kind of venture into that, I feel like there will be a lot of lifestyle shift aside from the weekend, like sacrificing too. Like you're going to sacrifice a lot of time working on your thing. You're going to have to give up a lot of things. Someone like people are making plans. You have to kind of not make those same fun plans. And like,
what did you give up? What would you say if you were to think now?
I mean, like just looking at my life in Toronto, there was a point in time where I was just like reminisce and question myself, like, did I make the right decision? Because I had like a nice condo, just
benefits.
Benefits with work. I don't really think of like, how am I going to make money? Like this whole stress of, I have to have like a bit of emergency money set aside in case, my next month isn't as good as this month, or like something happens like COVID, as we've seen. Like you don't think about these things as employees. I mean, even employees, they like a lot of people obviously lots of jobs and stuff. So you still have to think about those things. But at the time where like pre-COVID, when I was working, I didn't really think of those things. I was just like, all right.
Yeah. Well, it's you're kind of outsourcing a lot of worries of reality as an employee. At least I felt like there's always someone who will have my back within the company, whether it's your boss who's thinking about your career progression, HR is worrying about your benefits, the CEO is worrying about sales and how we're going to hit the numbers and stay profitable. You're kind of in a smaller bubble. But let me ask you, around the same time, again, the shift in mentality from employment to being your own boss, what were the reactions of the people around you? So friends, family, were they supportive? Were they worried about you? What were the conversations like? What were you hearing, or what were you sensing from them, even if they weren't saying it in words?
Yes. Okay. Very good question. Okay. So I'll say this with family and like the people that are very close to me, it wasn't like, what the hell are you doing? It was all coming from a good side. They're looking out for me. Like, what are you doing? But make sure you're okay. So like for my mom, I think, for example, I really had to make a case like, listen, I have a plan. This is what I really want to do, blah, blah, blah. She's like, okay, if this is what you want to do, that's okay. I don't know if they fully understand like my decisions and what I'm doing still now. Hopefully it will make sense soon, but it's coming from a good place. Now, at the same time, I remember like acquaintances or people you work with or what have you. I remember I told my manager when I wanted to leave, like we had a one-on-one discussion, and I was like, yeah, listen, I want to submit my 2-week resignation and 2-week notice. He's like, why? Is everything okay? Like, what's going on? And like everything was going really well at that point. Like I was about to get a promotion. Like they shouted me out in all the meetings,
the all hands meetings.
Yeah. They'd be like, Kareem, doing a great job, blah, blah. And like me and another guy, we put together this Excel macro thing. I'm not even into Excel anymore. It's been like too long. But we did this really cool system on Excel. So we were getting like shout outs. Everything was working well. Great client feedback. And then I come to my manager with this. So he's like, what's wrong? So I just told him, no, honestly, I've been making animated marketing videos on the side and I just want to do this. He's like, animated what? It didn't click for him. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Like you're working in, and by the way, I worked in anti-money laundering. Completely different.
So sexy.
Yeah. Very, very Miss Universe. But like completely different than what I do now. So like for them, it was like, and I was like consulting in that space for big banks in Canada. So he's like, what do you mean? Like, what the hell are you talking about? So that was kind of the reaction. Like every time I would explain it to people, they'd be like, okay, cool. And like, I remember I would show them videos and they would tell me it's cool, but I can tell that they're thinking like, what the hell is this guy doing? Like he's leaving a very good job to like make cartoons. You know what I mean? So
that's what it looks like on the outside. I think everyone that I've talked to has a similar kind of experience where people with good intentions are trying to help you not make a mistake. And at the same time, nobody really knows what you're up to because, the fact of the matter is we always don't know what we're up to.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's hard to share stories. And when you meet family and friends, you want to just tell them the good highlights. You don't tell them about the struggles and the sleepless nights and the worries that, you're missing right turns on your highways because you were busy thinking about something in your business. And it's all well intentioned. It's also a cultural thing too, right? At least and you can tell me about yours, but I come from a culture where it's like you become a doctor or an engineer or something in finance, and you climb the corporate ladder versus something like that's the American dream, which is more of a mission statement than like an actual path. It's like make something of yourself. I had a lot of that going against me. It was like, but why are you leaving your job? Because it's paying you salary. And even after a year being in business, like I'd still get hints from my family. It's like, so you want to go back doing the thing? Are you done playing?
Yeah.
Has it been like that for you? Or do you feel like you're at that point where people have stopped questioning your direction from your family and friends?
So there's 100% I relate to everything you just talked about. So same thing, like Arab household, you know how, doctor, engineer, or maybe accountant, but it's usually doctor, engineer. And that's what you want to like put your children into, like med school or like engineering. So yeah, I would say the first maybe 2 years, maybe the first year, because it didn't look like I was serious about what I was doing. So yeah, they're like, okay, what's happening? Because I did a bit of traveling too, going from like 9 to 5, and then to have that freedom, I'm like, wow, I'm free. But yeah, back to your point. There was some of that. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if my family fully understand. Even now, where like my mission is very clear now and what I want to achieve and what I've been doing. They get it, but it's still, because it hasn't reaped all the benefits, or like there's no like visible or tangible results. They're still like, okay, what's going on? Like he's working from home a lot. He's like on his lap. What is this?
He's doing something.
He's doing something. But as far as support, no, they've been 100% supportive, especially now because they see how serious I am. Like there's no slacking. Like this comes first, and I'm prioritizing it. So they're supportive. But yeah, maybe the first year or two, they're like, okay, what are you doing exactly? Kind of thing. So
you brought up this seriousness, and I want to bring up a phase from your recent life that maybe has triggered this focus and seriousness. Is it true that you went into a sort of semi-isolation where you were listening to Gary Vee every morning and trying to really understand like what is extra in your life and like being with yourself and trying to figure out what you're doing? I heard from a little birdie that you did.
Gary Vee every day. There was a Gary Vee phase, but not like every day. But yeah, there was like an isolation phase for sure.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was like COVID, but part of it was like me trying to achieve like a specific thing. And like the past 2 years, I was trying to build like these e-learning platforms.
Yeah.
Where just online courses basically. So I had to like really shut off, and I don't know, I set all these like deadlines for myself. So even weekend, if something was going on, I would just scrap that, work on either filming or editing. And at the beginning I was doing everything. So yeah, there was a bit of isolation. Yeah.
And would you do that again? Is that a regular thing that you would do?
Honestly, okay, so people talk about, because this brings up like the mental health thing, and like, because there was a point where like, people are like, dude, what's like, are you okay? Like, where you been? Honestly, for me, I was fine. And obviously I would have preferred to go out and have a good time and meet friends and what have you. But I feel like in order for you to achieve specific goals, and different successful people will tell you different things, but I feel like if you want to set yourself apart, you have to do something that not everybody else is doing. And if everybody else is going to JBR every weekend, is having dinner every weekend, going out, socializing a lot, I feel like if you want to be different, you have to take on some sort of sacrifice. Yeah. And for me, those 2 years were sacrifice. Not necessarily, may not work for everybody, because some people are like, they need people to, but for me it was like, no, I'm on a mission, I need to get this done, and hopefully later I can like chill a little bit more.
I think it's also a product of like when you're a solopreneur and you're running the whole ship yourself, you're so busy doing every day. You're doing that you don't get too much time to think. So even when you first get into business, you said it was mostly like gut. Your gut was guiding you. You felt that there's something there. you didn't make five-year business plans. I didn't make 5-year. I still haven't. I'm not going to. It's a personal opinion we can get into later. Yeah. But without having that kind of depth in your thinking, once in a while, I have faced trouble, like not going deep. So the way I was thinking about it last night, in my crazy mind, as I do on my couch, is a story about, like, you know, there's someone, a guru tells a kid, like, hey, you know, here's a lake, there's a treasure in the lake, go find it. And the kid swims everywhere, to corner of the lake, and he goes and he looks everywhere around the lake, of the surface of the lake. He's like, nope, master, I covered the entire lake, there's no treasure. He's like, you dummy, you didn't go deep enough. And that's what I feel like with what happens with my thinking is that because I'm such a shallow thinker most of the time, and if I don't take time to go deep, and to go deep, you have to like shut everything off. It's harder to shut off once your life goes into a different trajectory. Like you get a business partner. So I have a business partner. We're always talking every day, and we need to communicate, and we have to communicate every day. And then you've got family with responsibilities. Luckily, no kids yet, but if I had kids, it even gets harder. So I need some guidance on how to like start that self-isolation mode. Like what would you say to me to help me go into that kind of mode as well? Because I'd like to go into it for a week, maybe a few days. What are the lessons you learned that would make it easier for me to try my own self-isolation?
100%. So I think we actually talked about this before, because you've been fairly good at this with like short periods. Like I know we talked about like the concept of deep work, and I think it starts with that. Like with anything, like anything you do, start with like small increments. So start by, you know, not looking at your phone, not answering any messages, not going on YouTube. Because a lot of what I used to do before, like I would just YouTube something, how to do this or how to do that, and then YouTube starts suggesting all these videos and I get carried away. So how to kind of train yourself for a good 45-minute segment or 30-minute segment, not to get distracted by the things that we can control, more or less. There's outside factors, external factors that we can't control. That's outside of our control, obviously. You know, if the doorbell rings, you have to answer the doorbell. That's okay. Something happens, someone gets sick, all these like external factors. But the things I have control over, you know, phone, small distractions. So slowly shut off in those small increments, I would say. I think you've tried this before. Get in the habit of doing work with no distractions. And I feel like once you start doing that for longer periods of time, obviously it's going to get more tedious, and you're going to feel like, okay, I need to socialize and all that. But if you have a specific deadline, like set a deadline for yourself and say, okay, I have, 7 days to get this done. And consider it like, you know, when we had like back in university, when you'd have an exam and at the same time there would be like St. Paddy's Day happening or whatever. But you're like, no, I have to prioritize the exam. There's going to be another party happening soon enough. Like there's always something happening, you know? So just setting a deadline like we did, like you have an assignment, you have an exam. Same thing. I have this task. I need a mini project I need to get done. I have to shut off. No major plans. And, you know, incrementally work to that longer period of isolation, quote unquote. Doesn't have to sound that scary though.
It doesn't, because there can be like mini periods of isolation. Could be 4 hours a day. It doesn't have to be crazy, like 2 months, go to the mountains, be in a hut kind of thing. Yeah. But what I struggle with the most, so my role as we evolve into the company and between my co-founder and I, we decide the differences in what we do. I am naturally suited to and performing well at the strategic parts versus the day-to-day stuff, right? So which means I look at the growth of the business, and that could mean improving operations, getting more clients, building funnels like this one for our business as well, and get these things implemented now. Because these projects that I'm taking on are such one-off kind of things. They're like a setup and then forget about it. I struggle with setting deadlines. But when it comes to other people, I'm happy to give deadlines and keep them accountable. So everyone else in the company, the juniors that we're working with, Stuff that Alina and I work together, I give her like very strict deadlines and I follow up and I stay true. But for the stuff that I assign to myself, because they're in a sandbox, because there's no proof that this is going to work. For example, this podcast, right? I want to set a goal to record as many podcasts. Okay, let's give it a number. I want to record 52 podcasts. Okay, that will take a podcast a week if I do it, or 2 every month or 4 every month batched up together. But I don't set deadlines, and because I myself am this is what I want to ask you next. How do you validate your own idea before going deep into it? Or do you just kind of go with the flow, set the deadline and see what comes out of it? Do you kind of test your idea, your thought, like, is this going to work? How do you feel about that kind of stuff?
So here's the thing with kind of what I do now, because I work with groups of students. So basically, like I said, I run an Arabic teaching academy, School of Yalla. I have online courses, but I also have like boot camps. But what I also have is a membership academy. And these are like groups, this is a group of students that have been taking Arabic classes for a while, either finished the first 3 levels or are more advanced learners. And this is subscription based. So like just to get them practicing Arabic every week and immersing them in the language. So because I have that group, I'm able to kind of run things by them first and like ask them for feedback. So, hey guys, what do you think? What's something you liked with level 1 you want to see developed? What's something you didn't like? What are some things, what you want to see flashcards? What additional things you've seen with another institution you want to see in my institution? That kind of thing. So I'm able to kind of run it by like a test group first, which I think a lot of, with B2C, it's very important for people to kind of test things out with the market. Don't make a decision just based on gut. And that's the biggest kind of transformation I think that I've seen with myself. Instead of making decisions based on emotion and what I think is makes sense, that's very subjective. Versus, going out and saying, okay, guys, what should I do? And your customers, in my case, students, will kind of feed you that information. So I'll work based on that. If that makes sense.
I'm so glad that you think like that, because that's how all the big tech companies actually do think when they're prototyping stuff. So, right, this studio used to be the office where we used to have clients that had development projects for us, and the first thing that we would try to help them with is validating the idea, and that means fleshing out the idea enough so that someone can use it. So if it's an app idea, don't build the app, build a prototype of the app and put it in the hands of people that are going to use it, and they're going to tell you what you want. And if you can't bring those people in, we used to do workshops where we'd bring them in, for example, this room, and we'd have walls of Post-its filled out where we'd give everyone a role, like, you are customer number XYZ, this is your life, this is your name, how do you respond or react to this product or this feature or that feature? So simulating it versus actually doing it. But the fact that you have a base of customers that can be honest with their feedback and kind of guide you, I don't think you can go wrong with that.
I think so, especially if you have a good relationship with them, and I try to put, the students first, whatever they need to advance and get better at their goal, which is getting better at Arabic. I'm doing my best to facilitate that. So they see that in me. So it's kind of like a two-way, win-win. Like, hey, can you do this? And as long as you have a good relationship with your customers, and good things will happen.
The key point there is you call them customers, because that's important. Because I'll share a little story and then we'll go into School of Yalla a bit deeper. One of the businesses Alina and I tried back in Toronto was buying South Indian kind of clothes, used clothes, because new clothes, to like get them tailored, you'd have to get them shipped from India or Pakistan or somewhere. And occasions like Eid and weddings and stuff like that, every girl wants a new dress, which also means they only wear it once because they're now in a picture with that dress. So I'm not going to be caught dead wearing that again. So there's a heavy inventory sitting in different houses across the city of Toronto, where these girls are not going to wear that stuff again. So we said, okay, let's go buy them out $5 a piece, $10 a piece. You know, they paid $100, but they're never going to use it again. They're wasting space storing it. Went around, we bought like $5-10 clothes, and we wanted to sell them for $60. To validate this idea, we asked people, hey, if we do this, would you pay? Now, the difference here is that they weren't paying customers. So you're
100%.
actually asking, like, paying customers, like, if I do this, you're subtly asking, would you pay me more if I improve it?
Or would you continue to be my customer?
Would you continue? Like, can I retain you? We asked people that are our friends who felt, you know, that they didn't want to break our hearts. Like, yeah, for sure. We set up a store in our house. We moved all the furniture away to a different room. We bought racks from Walmart. We put price tags. We put some incense on. We put like some music on. We set up a studio in our house, to like a gallery in our house. Nobody came. Not even our friends.
No.
Not even the
people that voted, huh?
The people that says, yes, if you do this, I'd be in. Nobody came. Ooh. And we had to ended up selling at a major discount at like a Eid festival that was happening for a community that doesn't have that much in Scarborough. We had to go, if you remember Scarborough.
I know
Scarborough. But School of Yalla, it has evolved since day one. Were we one of your first customers?
Yeah, before it was School of Yalla.
Yeah.
So when you guys joined, first in Dubai, I would say, you and Alina.
All right.
So yeah, shout out you and Alina.
We were there at the Genesis.
Yes. Yeah. So I had always been kind of tutoring Arabic on the side. So that's another like side thing that I've been doing. Like it kind of not took off. It became more of a business when COVID happened, basically, because my other business just wasn't going according to plan. And I wasn't enjoying my other business a lot, and this was making more sense. And was that what did you ask me for?
No, but let's talk about School of Yalla and how it evolved over time, because it was kind of linking to the fact that Alina and I said, if you start this, we'd be in. And we're both not customers. You know, we're friends. But like, I really thought you had something going there. And Alina came home one day and she's like, I'm telling him that he needs to go all in on this. This is his thing. Like this, he needs to focus like 100%. So drop everything, the other business that you work, just drop it. Just go all in. At what point, or you can describe the evolution from going into like a random meeting room with me and Alina doing one-on-one lessons to what it is today. What were the different inflection points along the way?
Okay. So let's see. So yeah, we started. So for the listeners, so I met Naeem through Alina, and I met Alina, so Naeem's wife and co-founder, at a co-working space in Dubai. So, you know, we've all kind of, when us solopreneurs, we've been working at co-working space and all that. So, I think Alina, like when we were working at a co-working space, you mentioned, you know what, we've been trying to learn Arabic. I know you taught Arabic before. Would you mind teaching me and my husband? I said, yeah, sure. Why not? So I started giving Naeem and Alina classes. And that was just, it just continued to be a side thing, just like how it was in like Canada and New York when I lived in New York a while back. It wasn't, back then it was just like a fun thing, I think. And then I think, I'm not sure when COVID happened, or was it before that I think I ran even the name by you guys. I'm like, listen, should I, it was that like Yalla School, or like Let's Learn, Yalla, Let's Learn, like all these different names. And I think School of Yalla, and I'm not sure you or Alina were like, yeah, this is a pretty cool name. Then I started running it by other people. So that's when just like the name kind of happened. As far as like it growing into more of a solid state business, definitely when COVID started, because I did like freelance videography before this, and a lot of the contracts that I had were like put on hold or paused, or just people asked to charge them less. So it wasn't going very well. And then I just started like an Instagram page, posting stuff for fun, teaching Arabic. And then I'm like, okay, let me test out the market and see who'd be willing to do a group class. So instead of me doing just one-on-ones, let's see who'd be willing, like who'd be up for a group class. And then like I think 10 people responded to that. I didn't have that many followers. It was like 200, like a small number. And this is something we should talk about, by the way. Like it's not the number of followers, it's what you're doing with them. That because I went to this content creation conference, I'll talk about in a sec.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're all like, they have like million, like not millions, but like some people have millions are doing well, obviously, but they have like thousands of followers or subscribers, but they're not doing anything to convert them. Anyway, so I made a post. I'm like, who'd be interested? Around 10 people messaged. I had nothing. I had no curriculum. I had no idea what I'm going to teach them. So we just kind of went with the flow kind of thing. And then I'm like, okay, I just need a bit of structure. Let's do a 6-week course. And I'll call it level 1, just kind of intros, like, hi, how are you, blah, blah. So we finished that. Finished 6 weeks. Everybody's happy. And then like, what do we do now? I'm like, I guess level 2. So we get into level 2. So basically that kind of them asking me what to do next, I would just act on that, the students. And then slowly that started getting more and more streamlined. So instead of me doing like 2 live classes for the group a week, I said, okay, I'm going to record the classes for you guys. So you guys watch them because I'm explaining the same thing. So watch the recording, study on your own time whenever you want. And then the live class we'll use for interactions and questions and things like that. So it was just like recordings that I posted on like Google Drive that they would like log in. And then I'm like, okay, I can automate this even more. So let me look into like maybe creating a full-on online course for those that don't necessarily want to join the live class. So that's when I started getting into like building, e-learning courses and like platforms. And so kind of that's the progress, like always looking for like what the students were asking for, at the same time doing something different every time. So kind of evolving, whether the tech thing or the offering or the format, things like that.
And where are you right now with it? How many students do you have and what do you want to get to?
So it's hard to tell because the thing is like now there's so many different offerings. Like I sell just like an out of the box online course. So like that's just ongoing, people buying the online course. But at the same time, I have like a boot camp. And at the same time, I still do a bit of private classes for like the older students that I've been with, or like coaching. Like I do like Arabic coaching for someone that has like a specific goal and is willing to put in time. And then I have a subscription. So I don't know, but it's hard to tell because people like come in and out, 50 to 100, going, coming, level 1, level 2, level 3, here and there.
Is there a difference between managing 50 customers and 500 customers in your current model?
Yes, for sure. There's because of the live component. If I'm only focusing on online courses, not really, because you can just focus on the automation on that, and just just be a bit of more customer service, like responding to comments, things like that. But because there's a live component with some of the classes, if I bring in more students, either I have to do more classes, which is changing now. So like I brought in a tutor and all that, but I would basically have to hire more tutors. I would have so that yes, there's more, but it's I can see kind of how it would scale.
Yeah,
like there's a clearer model now.
So you'll end up becoming a Berlitz at some point.
We'll see. Yeah, those guys are big. Those guys are huge.
Yeah. We dabbled in academy building a bit. The difference that I'm finding with yours and mine is the root of it. The stuff that you're teaching is evergreen. Like language is language, right? What we struggled with was any one of our courses that were published 6 months later is out of date because it's all based on technology and what Facebook and Instagram decide to do and change things around and how the political environment is, how the social environment, it all changes. So it was kind of burning us out trying to produce new courses because it's a heavy concept and it's not evergreen. The evergreen part of it is the philosophy of advertising and marketing. That stuff is evergreen, and I wanted to focus a bit more on that. So maybe that'd be like iteration 2, but not right now. I feel like to be able to successfully or let's say with some authority put out courses on evergreen marketing and advertising topics, I have to be in it for much longer. I feel like I'm too young to be able to teach that kind of stuff. I need to earn my stripes. But you've been speaking Arabic forever. Right. So those two things are working, I believe, in your favor, that the topic itself is not out of date, can get out of date. and it's something that you've had experience with your entire life. Plus, you've had like tons of experience teaching it.
Mashallah, mashallah.
Mashallah, like these are things that you only have, like this can only fail if you mess up the operational thing. So let's talk about the operational scaling. So the one-on-one, obviously not scalable, right? Because there's only one of you. The online classes come with like a risk factor that it's not as engaging, right? Like
Exactly, yeah.
people start courses, but they never finish. And how do you motivate them to go? Because they have their own lives and schedules. And if there's no live class teaching up from that, do you focus on that? If you are giving like a fully automated course, do you care about the conversion rate? Like, do they finish the course or not? Or how do you try to improve it? What are you thinking about in that?
That's a very good question. And yeah, I wouldn't, like, if you asked me this maybe a couple months ago, I wouldn't really have a proper answer. Now things, like I said, a little bit more clear. Side story to get me to answer this one.
I love side stories.
The thing with side stories though, and my grandfather does this all the time, he'll start a side story and then me and him will forget what we were talking about. Bring me back, please. Yeah.
Bookmark.
Yes. So basically I was at this dinner here in Dubai, and there was this guy that also ran a language academy, French language academy, but he's like way ahead, and he was like massive on YouTube. He has like 1 point something million subscribers. He has a really good online academy model. So we start talking, and I tell him about School of Yalla, and he's like, "Whoa, this is really cool," even though like it's like infant stages. But he's like, "Okay, I'm thinking about, moving to Dubai, all this stuff. Maybe we should keep in touch." I'm like, "Yeah, if you need anything about Dubai, not that I can offer much business-wise, but like with your move, because I'm trying to help him too, obviously, let me know." And he offered to really answer any questions I have about, the business, from the business side of things, the things he went through, because he's already at a very like solid place, in a very solid place right now. So basically, when I brought this up with him, and I told him, okay, with the online stuff, how do you kind of keep the person engaged? And he just said, and like some of this I was already aware of, obviously, but like not in a more defined way. But just told me community. So even though the thing is fully online, if you still need to keep those people involved in some sort of community, whether it's a Facebook group, Telegram, group chat, WhatsApp, something, to let them know that, hey, there's other people like you that are either struggling or that are advancing. There's some sort of community for you to reach out to and connect with. So what I try doing now is, okay, even for those people that just buy the online course, I involve them in some of the, what we call like bonus meetups. So every month or so, I'll bring on someone from the more advanced groups to present in Arabic, or do something really cool, but in Arabic, whether present about the country. Yeah. And I'll invite everybody, like all the previous students, like from the level 1, people that bought the online course, people that took the boot camp. I'll be like, hey, we have, this event, show up if you can. It's so that's kind of, even the people that, they're not necessarily able to study or like complete the course. They're like, oh, okay, there's something. There's a path that we can follow. So, to let them know we're here.
How many have you done so far?
Like I think we did, 4 or 5 meetups of those.
Very cool.
Monthly, yeah.
What's the turn up like right now?
So not as much as I sent it like to a bunch, like to a lot of people, and then maybe you have, like 10 people show up. But still, it changes every time. You have your regulars, obviously, and then you have like 1 or 2 people that are new, that are like a little shy because nobody knows what to expect. Like, okay, what is this meeting? People are talking like in Arabic. Am I gonna understand? So what I just tell them, like, don't worry about understanding everything. Just get in there to immerse yourself and to listen to new words and things like that. But yeah, that's kind of my way of
engaging.
Exactly. Engaging the evergreen people, or people taking just the online course.
Yeah, that's actually pretty smart. We've been a part of online learning, I guess. So Alina has been doing technical learning on Facebook and Instagram, and how ads actually work on a technical level. And she'll always have a Facebook group that is bundled up with the price of the subscription. That can be ridiculous sometimes, actually, but it's totally worth it because there's 2,000 smart people on that Facebook group actually helping each other out. I joined this very random Slack group as well, based off a course of like productizing yourself. You know, the whole don't deliver services, do products that are more scalable. And that Slack was like the most fun time I've had, you know, post or COVID, because you'd get to meet people, talk about random things, and at some point you'll end up talking about productizing yourself. So even in these kind of groups, right, like people meet and they can talk about whatever that they want on these online channels, but they'll always kind of converge onto Arabic and their need to like finish their course or get better or impress their friends and family with everything that they're learning. That's pretty cool. What are you? Let's go into some, I wouldn't say dark stuff, but like, was there ever a time where you wanted to shut down School of Yalla in the last since it's been alive? Was there ever a time where you felt like, you know what, this is another one of those things that I don't want to spend any more time on anymore? I need to find a new thing. Have you been there yet?
I think it already happened. Yeah, like there's always, I feel like anytime you start a business, there's a phase where you start kind of doubting yourself or doubting what's going on. But then you hear something positive from paying customer. Not because, like you said, your family, your friends might tell you anything to uplift you. You know what I mean? Which is great. But you want to hear it as it is. So a lot of times, like I would be like, khalas, this was a very nice project while it lasted. But then like I see some students that are like hanging on to this, you know, and I see them very invested into it, and I see their transformation. I'm like, no, I'm not. And then they tell me something like, wow, this is like, I get like, you know, when you get those like really nice texts from someone telling you like, not changed their life, but you've made a very like a positive impact on their life somehow, you know? So I've gotten that from like a lot of students. I'm like, wow, I have to keep going. So yeah, them kind of cheering me on with that. And then me being able to bring on new people and kind of find a model for growing this kind of kept me in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like now I know how to scale it. I just have to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little clearer.
So it's almost like that problem of wanting to quit starts from the heart, and your remedy is also like something that's going into your heart. So which is the words of your students. It's not a mental thing. Like to feel is like, it's not a brain logic thing. And if what they say makes you feel better, that's actually the perfect remedy. It's very hard to get that kind of response in a B2B service like we do, right? Like, yes, we actually do make a significant impact in the bottom line of companies. But at the end of the day, because it's B2B, corporate to corporate, there's less heart in the whole thing. B2C has a lot more heart in that business. So you can notice this actually in all the marketing messaging. So go look up the best advertisements for B2C and the best ones for B2B. B2C always has more heart in the messaging. It's very personal, and it's very like, you know, rooted into your 8 subconscious feelings that everyone has. Versus B2B, it's more about efficiency. And no matter how much you do for your clients, and you can tell me in your freelance day this was true, at the end of the day, you're either too expensive or like your work is good, but like I found someone else that can do it, or the heart is missing from there.
True.
So we're always looking, we do it ourselves. We just look at the revenue numbers that we're bringing in clients, and we just pat ourselves on the back. We're like, we need to keep doing this. This clinic needs me. They don't know it, but they need me. They need me. And over time, I mean, here's the thing with us though. We are in a agency mastermind. So a lot of agency owners meeting together, sharing best tips and practices. And some of these guys are really big, like, you know, 4-person team, but making $1 million kind of deal. So the profit is very high. And they say like their client retention is like 8 to 9 months. And we're so good that our client retention is 8 to 9 months. Our client retention right now is 20 months, 24 months.
That's amazing.
A couple of our clients have been with us 36 months, so 3 years. And a lot of that is coming from this thing we're discussing, which is not very businessy, but it's like from the heart, because we have relationships. What you have is relationships with your customers, and we're trying to build that. How do you think about, now I'm going further in the future, it's like my 50 versus 500. How do you plan on scaling relationships? Is that a part of something that you're able to do? Would you have team members on at some point? Are you thinking of what customer service looks like for your business? Like, that's a dirty term because it's associated with telemarketing, but customer service in School of Yalla, are you thinking about that? Are you making plans about that? Or what's your initial thoughts on that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. 50 versus 500, or bigger number. So obviously the bigger you are, like the more you grow, especially in a B2C, even B2B, like if you have like 200 clients or have you, it's going to be very difficult for you to communicate with each of them, right?
Or have like a relationship with you versus a brand. Right?
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, two things. So one, I look at people that have or that are doing this right now, that are doing this successfully. So I think the same gentleman that runs the French Academy, he has like a lot of students, like a good 500 at least in his academy. And what he does is the same thing. Like every month he'll be like, guys, I'm organizing a thing on Zoom, and a good, like maybe, I don't know, 70, 80 people would show up. So he still kind of has a bit of, outreach with the students, but he has hired, like he has 4 or 5 tutors that he kind of trains to have that heart with not just, deliver the message and teach and deliver the product, but have a heart, be nice, build a community. So it's kind of passed on from the top. And I've had a chance to try that just recently. So I just got like a tutor to handle some of my live classes. And it's also
Is it done? Is it finalized? Because the last time we talked, you were still... It wasn't done then.
No, she started.
Nice.
Yeah, she's
Mabruk.
done. Thank you. Allah barak feek. Thank you. So she's been doing the level 2 and level 3, and knock on wood, doing a very good job. So like what I've done with those classes, she's handling all the live classes, and I've told the people that sign up, like, I'll do an extra like live class with Kareem, like the founder. We'll do a live class that involves Q&A. We'll do a meetup and kind of an assessment to tie everything together. So definitely, as the volume grows, it's going to get more and more difficult to have those close relationships. That's why my older students I have like closer relationships with, because like I've been with them, or they've been with me since like the beginning. So we know each other a lot more than like the new people coming in.
Yeah.
But again, like we talked about, like checking in, doing maybe one live a month, or some sort of meetup to bring everybody together. They get to know you. And then if they're not seeing you on a frequent basis, you get to pass on that, the mindset of being friendly and being, having a heart and building community to your employees or, people working with you.
There was the Slack group that I mentioned, that community was doing something similar. Maybe there's some ideas there for you, and I know ideas are cheap, and everyone probably gives you 500 ideas a day. But what they were doing, or what I noticed that they didn't plan on doing this, it just happened, which is the interesting part. It was run by a guy and his wife, the Slack group. The wife was more of a moderator, making sure everything is, people are talking in the right channels. Here are the files, here are the videos that you need to watch, et cetera, operational. And the gentleman was more of the leader of the group kind of thing. The Slack group went from 300 people to 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000, 2,000 to 3,000, and it was still pretty heavily lit up the entire time. And I started noticing it wasn't because the leader was always present. What happened is there were some superstars within the community that took on that de facto role without being told that they need to do this. Their presence was so loud and engaging and positive on the community. They would go out of their way to help, share links and articles, share their own stories, or just post updates about what they're up to based on the topic of the community. Like, hey, tried this thing, works really well for me. I hope it works for you. Here's a story about what it is. And there was a bunch of those kind of guys in there, guys and girls in there, that kept the conversations going. So I was going back into that Slack, not for the leader of the group, or the guy who I bought the course from, but for the other people. And they ended up becoming my internet friends. And we had tons of Zoom calls, like random Zoom calls with like people in Netherlands, in the UK, and in Singapore for no reason. We're just like, hey, you want to chat? Like, let's do a chat. We met because of Jack, but Jack is nowhere to be found. And he created a family that's kind of self-supporting itself. That could happen.
100%. Me bil me, by the way, means 100%. I use this all the time. Me bil me.
I saw your latest story post where you had a survey and the answers were no, me bil me.
It's like my tagline with the students. Me bil me.
Yeah, so maybe that can happen organically.
100%. And I kind of already see it. I see it with the groups that I've joined as a student. Like anything, like doing a marketing course, a videography or something. You have the company owners or the founders, but then the group really grows, and then you have these like rising stars on Facebook or whatever they're called, on like someone that's already answering all the questions. And we kind of have that maybe in like the more advanced students would answer the newer students, for example, in like a Telegram group. So yeah, 100%. Anyone grows, that's good.
Can I talk about your extra tutor for a second?
Yes.
So this role, I wouldn't like you're going to describe it, but it's not like a typical employee boss role, is it? Or is it a partner, or is it a freelancer? Like what is the relationship like? Are you managing this person? Do you have to motivate this person, or how are you? Is this the first time you've actually for a business?
Well, I mean, I've had like first time I've hired someone. I've had contractors for like editing and stuff, mostly editing. Yeah, that's mainly it. I haven't had like virtual assistant or any of that, but editing mainly. And then this was one of the more harder things to do. Kind of not give up, but it's more like I was concerned that the level of teaching might not be the same, or just like the personality and character and all that. So with this person, what I had her do is, like I trained her first of all. Well, before even we got into the training, I gave her like a sample class to teach me. So I'm like, imagine I'm a student. So I told her, Marhaba, ana ismi Michael, ana ma baki Arabi. I don't speak Arabic. Like I put on like a Canadian Arab /
I like that accent.
Yeah. Like the whole class, that's what I was doing to her, because I wanted to see her reaction. I didn't even tell her I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And I'd make mistakes on purpose. So I saw how she handled everything, how she taught the class. And she's a teacher as well. Like she teaches full time. So this for her would be just an extra thing on the side contract. So I thought she did a very good job with that. Obviously we spoke prior to that. I wanted to get a sense of, what she's been doing and her experience and all that stuff, the standard interview stuff. And then, we did the sample class. And then basically I just trained her on everything she needed to know. So I just gave her access to the online course. I had her look at everything. And it's just simple admin things, like how to conduct the class, what specific terms that I want her to keep repeating. Every class we have a specific syllabus. Like she'll get templates for every class, cover this topic. At the end, there's like a game. So there's like, it's very structured now. So that took up a lot of upfront time. And I was very much like reluctant to do that. But now I'm very grateful. Like I think it's one of the better decisions that I made, like getting some help.
Yeah. I mean, especially if the person is customer facing, right? Your customers are now going to face this person. When you're hiring an editor, they don't talk to your customers or communicate. So the whole, not even just the language or delivery of the service, but it's the attitude, the energy, because it's now what's happening to you is you're building a brand, right? And the brand has, like, as you said, these set processes to follow, but it also has a feel to it. Like, what does it mean to be a part of School of Yalla?
True.
What does Kareem, like, what culture are you setting, right? When you go past the survival phase, like, okay, I think if at this kind of revenue I can sustain a life, I need to do more, obviously. Yeah. Then the next thing I probably start thinking about is culture. And that happened to us. So we joke about this at home, is that, there's only 3 phases of business. One is survival. There's 3 phases and one of them doesn't exist. There's survival, which is like, can this baby walk? Then there is scaling at the other end of the spectrum, which is like you're shooting really high and everything is successful. That's the one that doesn't exist, because it's not stagnant. And there's the biggest one in between is the valley of despair, which is like, this works, but when will it work fully? Like, I know you can walk, but when will you run? Or I know you can run, but when will you fly? And
Nice.
where do you think you are in that spectrum for School of Yalla right now?
First of all, I really like these at-home analogies that you and Alina put together all the time.
Yeah.
I like them.
Theoretical stuff.
Where am I in that process? Yeah, I always tell people like it's still infant stages, and I do bring up the same analogy. Like I feel like with a business is kind of like a baby. You just have to nurture it at the beginning. You have to give it all your time until it's at a stage where like it can walk and then maybe talk, and then you can send it a little bit to school, meaning you can maybe delegate people to handle a bit of your business and free up a bit more of your time. So yeah, now it's more like, I don't know, it's kind of a combination of, I know this is going to work, but I need that proof of like, I want like a win for like 12 consistent months for me to just, okay, this is it. You know what I mean? Because yeah, I've learned not to act based on gut or emotion, because that's what I've been doing prior to this. And it's not, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
So like now it's like data driven. Like, does this make sense? Data. Am I getting like, how many students can I bring in if I do this many? Like
there's a feedback loop to every decision.
Exactly. Yeah. Feedback loop, or like stuff has to make sense number wise and data wise, So yeah, as far as where it is, I'm probably in that same valley of despair thing, like phase.
Yeah.
But I feel like I know what needs to be done, but it's taking a little bit longer to like, I'm like, come on, let's go. Like I want to see this, but it's taking long. And that's kind of a little frustrating.
Yeah.
But I understand you have to be a bit patient. You just have to keep doing the thing. As long as you're seeing results, keep doing whatever it is you're doing. And if it starts working, then double down, then go all in and what's working. That's kind of how my philosophy shifted a little bit. Because before I would just do the thing, not necessarily get results, but just keep doing it. But I was like, no, do it, but aim for result, some sort of result.
Yeah.
And like, with content, you're not going to see results right away if you're doing like organic content. But if like you need some sort of feedback, like you need to get a subscriber, you need to know how to convert a sale. Have to have like 50 people sign up for your like newsletter or like free mini course or webinar. Like you need to know how to convert. Once you've mastered that, then I think it's just a numbers thing.
Yeah. The last guest that was here was describing it much better than I would, but he was saying the same thing as you, in different words. He used the phrase, is it useful? So everything that he's taking on, whether it's a pivot or a new kind of client or new service that he's coming up with, is it going to be useful? And how do you know if it's going to be useful? And his idea was I asked him, like, when you pivot, because he's been doing this for a long time. When you pivot, do you go all in, pivot, kind of drop everything you were doing before and start the new thing? Or do you do mini experiments? And he's a fan of mini experiments because of that feedback loop and that data that you were mentioning, like learn. And then if the answer is no, then take that as a positive and go back to what you were doing or figure something else out.
Yeah.
It is a challenge of mine to call out on my own BS a lot. But when you do it that way, you don't need to call yourself out because the numbers will.
True.
Right? Or your own process will seem broken to you. But it's harder for creative endeavors to do it, but it should be still done. So like this podcast, right?
Yeah.
I can't just do it because I want to do it. I'm not a multimillionaire at that point where people do it because they can. Yeah. This has to be useful.
Yeah.
Whether it's the new relationships that I get out of it, whether they lead to business or some other investment opportunity, whether it creates a brand element for my current agency, etc. It needs to be useful at some point.
100%.
But I don't have the same feedback loop set up for this thing yet. Neither do I have collecting data. I want to do like a minimum of 10. That's my experiment. Let's do a minimum of 10. If you can do 10, maybe you can do 20. If you can do 20, you can do 100. 100%. And then you can figure out the usefulness. versus actually trying to figure out the usefulness before. And I absolutely see the change in your mentality from when you first met. You operating from the gut a lot more, and now you're actually like combining, which is dangerously good, to combine your gut and your aptitude for numbers and results and that focus. And I think it's gonna. I think I still have to like learn a lot from you. I think we'll need to do a round 2 of this when I get to my 10th episode to bring out a lot more stuff.
I'm ready, man. Whatever.
But bringing out this extra tutor solved a recent problem that you had. Is there anything that you're working on right now that can be categorized as a problem that you're solving for the business that is at this point, or are you running smooth at this point? What are you solving for right now? What's the next challenge you're taking on for School of Yalla?
I think just focusing on the marketing. A lot of, you look at, when I first started telling people that like I teach Arabic, people are like, oh, you're Arabic teacher. Like how much, it's not like teachers don't make that much and all that stuff. And I think the biggest, the biggest reason why this, why people have this mentality of like, oh, teachers don't make that much, because one, teachers, like the classic definition of a teacher is at a school, so like he or she is tied to a physical location. And number two, there's no marketing involved with that. I feel like once you scrap both those things and like you say, okay, I'm teaching online, one thing, and understand marketing, understand how to bring in students, then it's a business, it can grow. So for me right now, I need to start focusing a lot more on the marketing, less on the operations. Like I'm doing a lot of the, just scheduling and like all these, I'm still sending out manual emails, which I definitely shouldn't be doing, especially the repetitive things. Like this should be automated. So definitely figuring out automation, and then just the operations, maybe look into like a VA or something to just free up that time and get me focusing on like doubling down on content, on marketing. Like I think combining those two is a winning combination.
Does that scare you? Does that excite you?
No, that definitely excites me.
Yeah.
Excites me a lot. Yeah. To get rid of like doing the scheduling and the admin stuff. Yeah. I don't want to do that, but I want to definitely do more content. There's a lot more fun things that I could do and engage with the students. Like now I'm going to start involving students and like into the YouTube channel, like interviewing students and doing videos with them, doing maybe language exchanges. So that's where I want to focus my energy, because like I feel like there's so many creative ideas that I have, but all this stuff takes time, and then creative alone isn't enough if you're not being strategic and good on marketing. So I want to make sure to kind of free up my time to focus on both those things and just scale.
Yeah, because you are going to wear all your hats until you grow it to a point where you could bring in a partner, let's say, to delegate. At some point you'll have a CFO, a CMO, and where usually companies go. But until then, you're doing it all yourself.
I'm on the C's.
And
CMO,
CFO. And it's going to take discipline for you to like. I know what you're going through, because that discipline is so hard to catch when you're writing like emails. When we started the academy, I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I was writing like emails one at a time. Could have automated the whole thing. Yeah. But like you have to realize, okay, if I'm doing that, who's going out and getting new students? And then the operational things always attract me because I love operations too, but I love sales too. But sales scares me, but I'm good at it. It's one of those things where I'm very comfortable selling once I'm on the call, but like getting to that call, I'm really nervous and anxious about the whole thing. It's such a weird thing. It's also because maybe I'm an introvert, which doesn't come across usually. But
I wouldn't categorize
you as an
introvert.
I'm going to go home today after 2 interviews and not talk to people for 5 days.
No.
I need to recover this
Really?
energy. Yeah.
What's the term? Socially exhausted? Like when people say like you get, I had that once. I had that when I went to this content creation conference. I think I told you about.
Yeah.
There was like too many people, and there's stuff going on from like 8 a.m. until like midnight. Like they had everything, the breakfast thing, seminars, workshop, lunch, and then dinner, and then social night.
Yeah.
So like after those 3 days, I just worked from home for a week straight. Like I don't want to talk to anyone.
Don't talk to anyone. Just don't call me. Don't text me. I'm not here.
Nothing. No, out of office.
Here's the app. It's CAREEM. Go talk to that one. I want to say a couple of things that I absolutely love about you when it comes to like you as a person or you as a business too. And they're both like, they can apply both. But one thing is like, you're a guy that I've always seen as someone who's true to himself. You really have a sense of what's going on inside you, even if you're not able to articulate to yourself. I know that, this guy is actually searching for something inside all the time. All these changes and experiments, you won't do that if you were, completely trying to follow somebody else's trend and like, oh, there's this ladder path. Someone else has done it. I'm going to do it. You're very true to like, what's my path? What's my journey? So I really admire and appreciate, and I think your business is taking that form as it comes along too. That's a big part of your brand.
Thank you.
And the other thing is you're pretty self-taught in almost everything that you do, right? Like all the skills you've picked up, you had to have the discipline to like go into it.
Yeah, I mean, the past 3 years, I would say.
Yeah. Well, even before that, like if you were doing animation, let's say, were you?
Yeah, animation. Yeah, I didn't study any of that. Just, self-taught, like just online. Learned
and
animation.
It's kind of difficult journey for you because the kind of work that you did, anti-money laundering, consulting, doesn't transport over or doesn't port over well to any of the things that you've done.
Not one bit. No.
Are you comfortable learning? What's your learning philosophy? Because like you do it pretty naturally, I guess, right? Do you understand your own learning process and how you learn best and how you get into things and see them through?
I think when it comes to learning, if you're learning something that you're genuinely interested in and something that is going to benefit you, then you're going to be all in. Like you're going to invest your time and you're going to be fully focused on that thing. If you're studying or learning something for the sake of just getting a degree or what have you, which a lot of people do now, I've done that. Like I need a degree, so take chemistry class. I'm like, what am I going to do with a chemistry class? Or like calculus, how did calculus help me? I don't know, I have no idea. But that's why maybe I wasn't like fully focused in university. Now, like, okay, I need to complete this course or even watch like this 1 hour YouTube tutorial, because I know after watching this, I'll be able to do 1, 2, 3,
Taking it from learning to the next thing I want to talk to you about. And after that, I'll give the mic over to you if you want to say any few words to the audience or ask me any questions. But mentors and influences, do you have any business mentors in your life, somebody that you regularly talk to? Or if not, then do you have a source material for that kind of thinking, not just about the technical skills, but business in general? Is there someone to call out your BS when you're thinking for accountability and stuff like that, or not right now?
So short answer, no. So and that's the thing that's one of the things that I need to work on and get. And maybe the gentleman I told you about that runs that academy is a very good candidate, because he's doing like something very similar to what I'm doing now. He's just ahead, you know what I mean? And he has been very helpful so far. Life mentors, but business, that's probably what I like I said, would have to look for. But what has helped me a lot in the past 3 years is just joining groups of like-minded individuals, whether it's going to a co-work space, meeting you guys, and going to events, networking events, joining Facebook groups. People underestimate the power of Facebook groups. I haven't really tried like Slack groups, any of that, or like the other one, I forget what it's called. Discord, yeah. I think I should start looking into those. But I'm like, just like the idea of having a group of people that share similar interests, similar goals, that's, I think, the ultimate mentor. Like if I didn't have that, like anytime I used to have a question about videography, I go in this Facebook group, I message, and then like 20 people would respond. And same thing now.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and same thing now with like e-learning. Like I go in this group, like, hey guys, are you having trouble with, like your email marketing? What do I do with 1, 2, 3 with the tags? Like all these technical things.
Yeah.
And then people will, and you hear, and just you being able to hear not just from one person, because like a mentor will give you like one perspective, but like being in a group, you hear, okay, this person did it this way, this person did it that way. I'm gonna use what makes sense. Like I'm gonna use the combination of all of them, or in a way that makes more sense for my business. You know what I mean? So there's no one mentor, I wouldn't say, but groups of people that I've been involved, like that I've been in touch with, and that I am in touch with on a day-to-day basis, that motivate me and keep me quote unquote sharp. Or
they're serving the same purpose, right? They're like your invisible board of advisors, almost, right? Like, but only invite only. You go to them when you need them. They're not stepping in as like, hey, where are the results?
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I'm conscious of time. I know you have to be somewhere after this as well, and the studio's booked as well. So I'll start wrapping up now. But maybe I can give you the mic. Was there something on your mind to bring up before you came here? Any curiosity during the conversation that you think we can explore more?
I mean, I thought this was very cool. I like what you're doing. I was just gonna like give you compliments. That's
I don't want that.
What do you need? Feedback or something that you wanted me to share with
something you want to share,
with people?
Yeah, someone who's the audience I'm hoping is people who are either very new into business. Because people who are all into business are not listening to my podcast to learn what to do. Maybe they are. I don't know.
I mean, fresh perspective. Fresh perspective.
Or even someone who's looking to make a jump, who was in anti-money laundering, finance consulting.
So funny story. There's so many people. Like in my last paid job, there's so many people that had these side jobs. Like there's one guy that was doing, what's the thing? Like he's like, when people go on like those little bikes and do flips, like what's that called? Like the type of sport, just like super dangerous
BMX stuff, like
kind of BMX, but it has a name, like I forgot. But he was like almost sponsored by Red Bull. He's doing all these stunts, but he's working AML. And then this other guy, he does personal training and he runs like fitness boot camps on the side. Same thing. He's working at a bank. I'm like, dude, like why don't you like explore that? This is what you actually like doing. And a lot of them, like the answer I would get is like, yeah, but I still like that steady income thing or steady salary. And I get it. People are at different stages in life and different goals. And sometimes it is more kind of comfortable or it's just less risky to continue the status quo, But if someone is kind of like fed up with, like I said, I didn't have any issues with my job, but there's someone out there that probably has a lot of issues and is fed up with their manager, fed up with their work and like questioning their existence with the
like
work.
Their soul is dying.
Yeah, like what am I doing here? And like if they're questioning, then definitely look into exploring the thing you're good at. And a lot of people, like some of my friends, like I have a very good friend of mine, he works in investment banking. He has a really good job, but he tells me, man, I have no life, unfortunately, but it's very well paid. But he tells me like I would start my business, but I just I don't know what to do. I don't have an idea, So I would always tell him like, look for the thing you're good at. Look for the thing you're good at, and then see how that can make you money, and then work from there. But don't like jump into it before you have some sort of feedback loop or validation. Yeah. Because that's what I did. Like I had zero feedback and that's what caused the thing to fail. And not everybody can afford to fail. Like I managed to crash with family and let go of like everything and move out from
like
my
you can
apartment.
Scale down your life.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to scale down when you're like alone. But some people that come with a package of 5 or 6 people, it's a lot more difficult. So I would say, have those two things, something you're good at and something that people are asking for too, that could generate you money. That like similar to that Venn diagram that they talk about. So not just something you like, you want something that you're good at, and then something that's going to get you money at the same time. That overlap.
Ikigai, I think it's called in Japanese.
I think so. Yeah. So like look for that, test it, like try to do it, like try to somehow start it and get feedback. And if there's like 1 or 2 people that actually pay you money to do the thing, then you have a mini business you can like go after.
You have a mini experiment to try out.
Exactly.
It's funny when you're telling me about all these corporate people with their side hustles and things they were doing. I know an accountant, like a senior accountant who runs a fitness thing on the side. And, you typically look at accountants and they're not the fittest people. This guy is like rock solid, everything. And my personal thing, I was on a trading floor, wearing a suit, looking very corporate every day, in Toronto. We're working on Bay Street, so downtown. And there was a time where I'd bring a change of clothes. At 5 o'clock, I'd change into jeans and a t-shirt, wear a hat, go down to the street and be busking with my guitar.
No way. Dude.
Without a license.
What?
Yeah, that's when I knew my soul was actually screaming out for me to leave.
That's crazy. I didn't know this.
No, seriously. And then, I had validation because people are dropping coins and money into that thing. Thank God I didn't pursue music as a career choice. Because I want to keep music sacred. Like, it's very sacred. I don't want to ever monetize it because I'll lose the passion that I have for it and will have to make money from it.
That's something. Okay, we'll talk about this on the side too.
Part two?
Yeah, part two or on the side. Because we can have so many questions about this now.
For sure. When are we doing part 2?
Whenever you want, man. When I don't know, at the 100 student, 200 student mark, I don't know.
All right, we'll do a 100 student podcast with Kareem from School of Yalla.
Inshallah, yeah, that'd be cool.
Not the super app.
Yes, yeah, not the super app. You know how many times I've heard, like, I go sign up somewhere and someone's like, "Oh, Kareem, like the app?" I'm like, "Yes," and then they spell my name with a C. Like, guys, what are you doing? What is this?
Oh God. Well, thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think this was fun. I hope you had fun.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I felt like, honestly, it feels a little bit like therapy too.
Yeah.
Like, talking about your struggles or your achievements and what have you. So it's good to have someone that has been through that to listen. I know I didn't get a chance to ask you, but I understand that you're interviewing me. So
yes, exactly. It's my show.
It's your show. It's your show. So yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Good stuff.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Yalla.